Like your mouth.
Thank you.
All right, have a seat right in your mom. I will. I'll be right back.
The estimate on taxation will now begin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this live broadcast of our virtual meeting. This meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local health pandemic. For the record, my name is Carol Becker. I'm the president of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Board Member Fry.
Here.
Cogill.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here.
Bender. Fletcher.
Here.
Bender. President Becker.
Here.
There are 5 members present.
All right. Next is acceptance of the minutes from the September 16th meeting. I have a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? And if none, we'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Board Member Fry.
Aye.
Cogill.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Bender. Fletcher.
Aye.
Bender. President Becker.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
Okay. Motion passes and the agenda has been adopted. Let's see here.
Actually, you did the minutes before the agenda, so we need to adopt the agenda.
Sorry about that. I must have scrolled ahead. Board members, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Board Member Fry.
Aye.
Cogill.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Bender. Fletcher.
Aye.
Cogill.
Aye.
President Becker.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
This is Bender. I'm here and would like to be registered as I.
Thank you.
The only item on the agenda is the, get back. The item on the agenda, item 4, is the presentation of the mayor's 2021 recommended budget. Do we have anyone here to present that?
President Becker, Micah Intermill, the city budget director. We had a conversation with BET staff and had clarified there was not any intent to present any additional information beyond what was presented last week. Certainly happy to answer any questions the board may have.
So in the last 24 hours, however, the details in the budget have been presented. Can you speak a little bit about the police budget, please? Because there are a number of people who are interested in that. Mr. Intermill?
Are there any specific questions I can answer for you regarding the police budget?
Well, staffing levels would be helpful. Kind of what the plan is. Are we going to be seeing more cadet classes? I looked at it briefly. I saw a 13% reduction, but I don't know if that's accurate. Can you talk a little bit about the change between 2020 and 2021 as far as the police budget and staffing levels and the overall budget in particular?
Sure. So, President Becker, the police department budget does, the change in the mayor's recommended budget as compared to the council adopted for 2020 is about, as you had mentioned, 13%. That includes both the elimination of one-time change items that were included in the 2020 council adopted a budget and changes to the current service level. Embedded within that change, intrinsic within that change, is the freeze of 140 positions in the police department. That's made up of 22 civilian or non-sworn positions, as well as 118 sworn positions. And so the average sworn in rotation in 2021 will be 770 officers. And that you had also asked about new recruit classes. There are 3 classes funded in next year's budget. And so throughout the year, as happens any year, there is attrition and there are new hires that come on board. And so that average number is 770, taking all of that into account.
So I am accurate to say there's about a 13% reduction in the number of sworn police officers that will be available in the budget, roughly speaking, knowing that it's gonna, is that correct?
I have not done that that percentage calculation. I could do it quickly here on my other screen, but I trust your math, and 118 out of 888.
Is it 880? I think I used 880, so.
888 is the authorized sworn in the 2020 budget. So.
And I'm off a little. Okay, thank you. And then at the same time, even though we're seeing a 13% reduction in the number of police officers, there's increases in affordable housing spending. Can you speak a little bit about that?
So there are increases in affordable housing spending, including about $7.2 million in new ongoing expenditure related to naturally occurring affordable housing, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and other programs in our Community Planning and Economic Development Department, as well as regulatory services and some of the renter protections and tenant supports. So I don't know if the mayor would like to speak specifically to that point.
I would happily, Madam Chair. Yeah.
Yes. Board Member Fry.
So to
and
provide
congratulations,
a
by the
little
way,
bit
on the new taxpayer. Just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Here we go.
So to provide a bit of context here, as Mr. Intermill mentioned, 888 is the sworn capacity. Over the last several months, there has been significant attrition. On an annual basis, we normally see around 45 or so officers retire and or resign. This year is obviously significantly higher, upwards of 100 and even a bit above. Now, there is a hiring freeze in effect. That hiring freeze is not limited to the Minneapolis Police Department. The hiring freeze is citywide. It is the entire city enterprise for which there is a hiring freeze on. Exceptions can be made to that hiring freeze, and in fact have been made to that hiring freeze. And as Mr. Intermill correctly mentioned, next year there are three additional recruiting classes that will be coming online, or we anticipate them coming online for 2021. Now, to be clear, that will not simply fill the gap that we've seen through attrition. But certainly having additional recruits on will add to the number of officers, not the sworn capacity, but the number of officers that we have. And as for affordable housing, yes, there are certain areas that where we have added to the ongoing funding. Traditionally, and certainly the last several years, much of the affordable housing budget has been done in a one-time basis, and although those one-time monies have been very important and crucial, we've been producing a record number of affordable housing units and very low-income affordable housing units. Having the ability to plan for the future has been very helpful. There's a lot that went into this, making some of these decisions. As I mentioned, there was a citywide hiring freeze in effect, and the notion of if we did not have that hiring freeze and if we did not make some of the financial decisions that we have, we would be staring down a 14% levy increase, which is not something that I thought was tenable, especially during times of recession for our constituents.
And President Becker, if I may just correct myself, the overall change in the police budget is not 13%, it's 7.4%. 13% is the change in the funded sworn complement.
Thank you. Thank you. Another question, Mr. Intermel. One of the things I understand that's driving, especially Mr. Fry's comment about 14%, is the fairly dramatic decline in sales tax revenues and parking revenues. Could you speak just a little bit about that dynamic that we've seen? Just my understanding, looking at it, was like 70 or 80% decline in those revenues.
President Becker, thank you for the question. I don't believe it's a 70 or 80% decline, but it is significant. And so we anticipate, based on everything we try and consume as much as we can in terms of what the trajectory of this pandemic and the associated economic impacts will be, and based on the latest we've heard, I think it was just affirmed last week. Dr. Fauci and his colleagues at the CDC say expect for this the social distancing to continue through the summer, and that is what we had expected for in our financial planning. And so we do anticipate the resumption of that office activity downtown, and anticipate the look forward to the lifting of restrictions on large gatherings to occur in the fall time frame. And so in total, part of that 14% need that the mayor had identified is so each year there are two major transfers in from these sources to support general fund activity. There's a $7 million transfer in from the parking fund, and that continues under the mayor's recommended budget for 2021. There's what was planned to be a $33 million transfer in from the Downtown Assets Fund, where we collect our local taxes. Because of the anticipated continued lower collection rates, that transfer is recommended to be reduced by $22 million again next year. And so that alone would account for about 6% of the levy, and is a major factor in all of the underlying all of the decisions.
So about roughly half of our problem, if the problem was 14% before, give or take some percentages. Okay.
Yep, that's right. I'd say that the Downtown Assets Fund plus the loss of $4 million in local government aid, just through the normal formula that drives the end results of the local government aid. Our population in Minneapolis has been growing faster than other jurisdictions, and so we are set to receive less local government aid next year. So those two things really are half of the story.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wheeler.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sitting at lovely Methodist Hospital waiting for my meeting with my cardiologist here in about 12 minutes, so I wanted to jump in quickly here. A couple of things that I think are really important, and it doesn't always have to be said, but it's okay to reiterate it. These are extraordinary times. In my life, which is moving on to 70 years here pretty soon, a couple of years, year and a half, I've never seen anything quite like this. And it's amazing that we've had to deal with this pandemic, that the economic crash, all that kind of stuff has been so difficult. And I think because it's an extraordinary time, things are a little bit different. We like in the financial world to do things in a very straightforward, careful manner to make sure we cross all the T's and dot all the I's and do all those things correctly, to have time to have stuff before the citizens so they can give us proper input. We've not had a way to do that very easily because it's been online. They haven't been able to come into meetings. Nobody signed up for our public hearing last time. So I'm concerned about that. I also have considerable concern about the fact that our staffing levels in the police department are not allowing us to respond to 911 calls, and people are starting to feel unsafe. We're hearing that from a wide variety of people. So we can't tell the council how to spend every dollar, but we represent the two of us who are elected citywide. We represent the citizens of Minneapolis, and they have some significant concerns about the levels of policing. And I understand the financial stuff behind it, but I really think it's important for us to address those issues, and they're going to get a lot of input from the public as time goes on. And I would like to actually move the resolution so that we can have a full discussion on it. I'd move the resolution for setting the maximum property tax levy.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will just say three more words. I'm in favor of the resolution. I wish we could provide more money. I hope the council decides to spend the money very wisely for our city. It's important. And if I get the opportunity to vote, I will vote in favor. If not, I'm gone in about 10 minutes. So enough said. Thank you.
Is there anyone else want to speak to the motion? Mr. Plago.
Thank you, President Becker. I'm going to be voting in favor of this motion and the levies. I just wanted to quick note, the same kind of sketch of our budgetary situation was provided for the park board at the last meeting, and we will, with the superintendent's budget, be looking at some cuts around about $6.2 million. I'm looking forward to seeing where that is coming from as the superintendent puts that together, but I just want to highlight that as we all know, this year is a difficult one across the country and certainly locally, and I'm in support of a lower tax levy, and that will have implications on the level of service that we're seeing in our park system. And I just also want to highlight that my priorities moving forward with the rest of the board in approving a budget will be around preserving the board's #1 priority for its term, which is investing in young people. So preserving those investments, preserving our frontline staff as we look forward to 2021. Thanks.
Someone else want to speak? Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, President Becker. I think I want to just appreciate the hard choices that have been made by both the mayor's office in laying out a proposed budget that I think does a good job of setting the conversation in a place where people are not feeling overwhelmed by property tax increase, where we can have a conversation about how do we all get through this together. And I think that's a good level setting sort of starting point in terms of the BET conversation about max levy. I also appreciate the park board being fairly conservative in the way that they're thinking about this work. I think that they're at a point where, we really need to support them in tackling unsheltered homelessness so that they can get back to the core services of youth programming and the stuff that we really count on the park board to be invested in. And I think this is a good moment to be sort of, level setting and getting through this year and resetting for next year. So I think it's the right thing to support this motion. Obviously, there's going to be conversation about the details within it. We're operating within a set of parameters. I think the most common, I got some contacts from the senior caucus from some folks who have been advocating for, could we raise this levy so that we could increase police staffing very quickly? And I just want to note that that's not something you can do. That with the attrition that we've seen, that if you want a higher level of police staffing and you want that to be quality, really the fastest way you could do it is the way that the mayor has proposed, to have three recruit classes and to restore the CSO program. And so I think we will rightly have debates about whether we should do that and about what we think the right level of policing is. I think that's going to be a very vibrant and lively conversation. It won't surprise anybody to know that I'll have some thoughts on that as we go along. But I do just want to note that I received the feedback from people who were advocating for a higher level so that we could in some way make a quick adjustment. And besides the fact that I probably wouldn't support that myself, I just wanted people to know that sort of wherever you are on the question of police staffing, it's not actually possible to snap your fingers and replace staff during a period of attrition. So I wanted people to know they were heard, that feedback was registered, and also that's, I think we're setting the terms of the debate in the right place, and now we can get onto the conversation about sort of how we think we should allocate those funds.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Anyone else who wants to speak? All right, I have several different concerns about this. My first concern is that the numbers, especially the details on this number of sworn officers, was released yesterday. With less than 24 hours ago, we are now being asked to vote on this. I'm going to make a substitute motion that we postpone this until Tuesday. I've already received some feedback from some citizens, including the senior caucus. I think that people have a right to have more input because where we set this levy determines how many police officers we can have. And I will say also, we need police. For the people who have been saying that we don't need police, they came and took my catalytic converter off my decrepit Honda Element, got it fixed, $2,400, and they came back and they did it again. And then after coming and getting it again and waking up to the Sawzall, they drove away, and I figured, well, they probably didn't go very far. Sure enough, I got it in my car and my other car and my partner's car, and drove a couple blocks and found them. They were cruising around looking for more cars to steal catalytic converters from, and when I drove by trying to get the license, they told me if I did it again, I'd get shot. So I called the police, and nobody showed up. I called the police again, and nobody showed up. I called the police again, and nobody showed up. So then I went home, and I'm sure they went on to steal more catalytic converters. My dad lives in the condo 2 blocks west of Hiawatha Lake, the Aldi's building there. Every week now we have somebody trying to break in, and so he's retired, and they go down and they ask him to do something about it. And he's 85. He's 85, and he's down there confronting these people that are breaking in and trying to do harm. The idea that we are down 13% in the police, the reason that nobody showed up, and I called and I asked, they're like, we're too busy, we have other things, this isn't a high enough priority, because they didn't have enough people. Didn't have enough people. I think we owe it to the public to hear those stories before we set this levy. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we carry this meeting over until Tuesday to allow the public to contact us and give us feedback on this levy amount. Because where we set this levy determines what the city is going to be able to do. And it's a really important decision. I think the public deserves more than less than 24 hours on it. So I'd like to make a substitute motion.
I'm finishing up an online meeting. Can I go back? I have to leave. I've been called out for my 4:30 meeting. So
Okay, David.
you're going to have to make decisions without me, I guess. Sorry.
Thank you. So my proposal would be that we postpone this decision until Tuesday at 3:30. We have checked everybody's calendars, and that would be a time that would work for us. So I'd like to make that motion, and I believe then I would need a second. And I've got Mr. Fletcher and Mr. Cowgill in the queue. Mr. Fletcher, do you want to comment?
Point of order, don't we need a second on the motion?
Yeah, we should see if you have a second before we proceed.
I don't know if either of you are trying to second. Do I have a second on the motion?
I was not.
Okay. Mr. Cowgill, are you a second on the motion? You are not. Okay. Do I have any second on that motion? All right, then the motion dies. Mr. Fletcher.
I had gotten in queue to speak to the motion, so if it dies, we're back to the original motion.
Mr. Cowgill.
Same. I'll withdraw my hand raised.
Further discussion? I believe we need to do better, people. I believe that we need to do better in our public input process than this. So you could not support me, that's fine. But we deserve, the people deserve better. The people deserve better than this. But fine, we'll go to the main motion. Anyone want to discuss the main motion? All right, if there's no discussion, I guess the clerk will call the roll on the main motion.
Madam Chair, I did put myself in queue.
Okay, Ms. Bender?
Thank you. I had held off. I had hoped that Mr. Wheeler could. I know he sounded like he really wanted to be here for the vote, but you know, I just did want to comment briefly that you know, the decision to delay, or the one that is before us now, would really be about, should we increase the levy further? And in the conversations that we've had so far, you know, I haven't heard any kind of indications or proposals from BET members to increase the levy beyond the proposal from the mayor. I actually think that's a difficult decision. So I did want to speak to it. We are being asked to do much more right now than ever before. Our health department is doing contact tracing for coronavirus and testing, particularly in vulnerable communities. I mean, the park board, as indicated earlier, is providing direct service to people experiencing homelessness. You know, we have higher demands than ever for every type of service the city provides, and many that we do not. And so, you know, the question of the levy to me was really, should it be at this number that Mayor Frey proposed, or should it be higher? And, you know, where we're at today, I think it would be very challenging for us to raise the levy beyond this proposal. You know, it is just a challenging and difficult time for our community, and those dollars do get passed on to our constituents. So today I'm voting to support this maximum levy amount in that context. Thanks.
Is there anyone who wants to speak to the main motion? Going once, going twice. Clerk, want to call the roll?
Member Frey.
Aye.
Cowgill.
Aye.
Wheeler is absent. Bender.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
President Becker.
No.
There are 4 ayes and 1 nay.
All right. we have any announcements? Does anyone have any announcements for the meeting? All right, with that, we've concluded all business to come before the board. I'll note we're adjourning, concluded all business before the board. Without objection, we stand adjourned.